I want to bring to you the moderator for the panel as we bring on stage the panelists. All the way from way across the continent, we have Nesta Rug, and I hope I'm saying that name right, Aberdeen, who she tells me that she's coming from Switzerland to be part of this evening's event. Is Mr. Anthony Wendell de Riggs, who has written several books, including Reflections of an Island Man, among others, and he's working right now on his fourth book. Mr. Wendell de Riggs, who went to school in Guave. He's not from Guave. Don't let you fool you, he's not from Guave. Next up, Mr. Clyde Jusman Viveg. Clyde Jusman Viveg, who I found out in talking to him as we prepare for this, that his mother and I went to SAS together. Those of you who might know Ladig and know the Synax, Clyde is related to the Synax from Dry River, Bellevue land side of that, way up in the bush. That's so, and his forte is to write about Laja Bless and Sukuya and Shevaman and Open Door. Them thing and them Ligaroo and those things, that's what he likes to write about. Clyde Viveg is here. All the way from, well, we went from Switzerland, so now we're coming closer to home. All the way from New Jersey is Miss Nautica Francis, who has white paint on her forehead. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the panelists. Mr. Anthony Wendell de Riggs. Next to him is Miss Nesta Rug Aberdeen. Am I saying that name right? Rug? Reg? Reg. Okay, Reg Aberdeen. That's Swedish, right? Swiss. Swedish, Swiss? Swiss, not Swedish. Oh, Swiss, not Swedish. You see, I'm learning something here, boy. That's, teach me. And next to her is Mr. Vivek, Clyde Jusman Vivek. Clyde Jusman Vivek. And next to him is Miss Nautica Francis, the panelist. The moderator for the panel is Miss Karla Rapier Kelman. Karla Rapier Kelman. And I mean, like I had to tell her yesterday that I had to give her a thanks because members of her family saved my father's life during the time of Grenada's upheaval. Long story, we're not going to get into that. So give a clap to the panelists and our moderator.
I want to welcome everyone here again tonight. It's been such a great turnout. Again, my name is Karla Rapier Kelman. I'm all the way from California. Took 2 flights to get here. I don't recommend Southwest. It's like a Greyhound in the sky. Okay. But I'm glad to be here. A little bit about me. I am born and raised, I left Grenada at the age of 12, 13 years old. As you can see, my visual art is on the side of the wall there, but I'm also a writer. And so I've been an AP, Advanced Placement Art teacher for a number of years. And I got into writing, and I absolutely love it. My book, Coffee Shop Crazy, is going through the publishing process right now, and it follows my life from Grenada during the intervention time to our stay in Brooklyn, New York, and my family ended up moving to Texas. Woo! Now, from Texas, I went out to Oklahoma, and that's where the mass of my book is about. It's because I got caught up into a cult in Oklahoma for 10 years, and I was stranded from my family, from everything Grenadian, until 5 years ago, my husband and I got out of that cult. And so anyway, that's the book Coffee Shop Crazy. If you want any information about it, just go to my site, nakedcanvas.net, or you can get one of my cards, and there's an excerpt from there. So for some of you guys, it will bring back some memories. And that's about it. Now we're going into the panel, and we have these great authors. So I know you were introduced already, but I would like you guys, and you have a couple of mics in front of you, so I would like you to reintroduce yourself and probably the titles of your book or books and give us just a little bit, very brief history about you.
Okay. My name is Nordica Francis, and I am a Grenadian. I'm from Guelph, actually. We've been raiding up Guelph all afternoon. And I also have the bug, the writing bug. I did my first novel back in 2009. Of course, I started doing it a long time before that, but it finally was published in 2009. And that novel is a fun novel. The name of it is White Paint on Her Forehead, and it deals with interracial couples having lots of struggles because the story takes place in the United States. And we know that, here we do have these issues of race and cultural bias, et cetera, et cetera. But it's set in New York and California and Paris, and it's a very light-hearted book, and it's a great read for a rainy day, for a summer day, for a day on the beach, that kind of book. The other book, the one I'm really more interested in promoting, is the second book called Rockstar Teenage Girl, but not the rockstar like you're thinking. It's Rockstar Teenage Girl, Self and Confidence Building for Tween and Teenage Girls. And I guess later in the program, Ms. Kelman is going to ask us to talk more about the content. But this book I was pushed by myself to write, because I've been working with teenagers for the last 30 years, and I probably just gave away my age, but it's okay. So I've been working with them for a long time, and I really did notice a very big difference between the way girls interpret their experiences and the way boys interpret their experiences. When a boy fails at something, he just assumes, well, I could be better at this if I try harder. And he doesn't see it as a problem for himself. He takes it on as a challenge. When a girl fails at something, she's very worried about not being good enough, not being worthy, not being able to do this. And so this is why I've written the book for girls at this point. I do have a book in the making for boys, but I'm kind of tiptoeing around that because guys would be better able to write this book than I would be able to write this book. So I probably need a co-author, and I'll talk about that later.
Hello, everyone. I'm Clyde Viveg. I'm from Mount Morris in Grenada. And my book is called Caribbean Twilight, Tales of the Supernatural. And I'm just going to read the introduction for you. I was raised on the island of Grenada with an abundance of folklore, tall tales on rainy or full moon evenings. I found them frighteningly entertaining and delighted in the way the various storytellers delivered their narrations. You could not help but to look in the closet and under your bed before sleeping. Today, things have changed. I fear these tales are not rooted in our Caribbean tradition, might soon be lost forever. So I have undertaken a rather ambitious plan to keep them alive and well in the hearts and minds of future generations. Even if you are not from the Caribbean, you may find some similarities between them and your own culture. And to this end, I have aimed at finding common ground among the diverse cultures of the world, one story at a time. Clyde Viveg, storyteller.
It's a pleasure being here, and I thank you for coming out. I just arrived today from Switzerland, and I'm a little tired, but we will do the best we can. I'm originally from the parish of St. David's, and oh, lovely, from Windsor Forest, Toko Bay. That's I grew up in St. George's, though. I started writing at a very tender age. I always think, why I write, and I realized from a very tender age it was very difficult to talk, and so I found an escape. It was to be rid of all the thoughts that was welling up in my head, and so I write. Later on, I realized that I write because more than often, when you really want to talk, no one is really willing to listen. So I write about love and life, because writing is really about writing life, I think. It's from the rolling seas to the passing clouds to a heartbreak. It's about experience, lived, experienced, witnessed. And that's what I do. I write about emotions. I write about the world, the way the world revolves around me, anything possible. and my experience growing up as well in Grenada, and my experience in Switzerland. I've been married now almost 24 years. My husband is Swiss, and you can well imagine the cultural, the mental, and the whole different stuff. So that's pretty much what I write, my experience on paper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whenever writers get together, you will find a certain energy. We sort of feed off each other, and we get the will, the incentive to move on, to write more, to resurrect the deeds of the past, to bring it to light, and to let the world know. And I also feel a close link with Guave and St. John's, because I used to travel, first of all, to go to school in St. John's Christian Secondary School. And I taught there for a number of years before I came to America. So I have this closeness with Guave and St. John's. And any event that would support anything that deals with St. John, I would make my best effort to be there. What do I write about? I write about us. I'm in my 4th book at the present time. I must say that I have had a good measure of success, especially with my 1st book. And one of the amazing things that actually happened was to get people who do not usually like to read, to get them to read. I remember speaking to a man who told me, he said, "Man, I don't read books. Since I came to America, I haven't read a book, but when I saw my father in the book, I had to buy it." So that getting people to read, because we often say that our culture is not much of a reading culture, but there's a lot of effort that we can make to actually change that. So yes, I write, and I write about us. Because I think that at some point, the breadfruit would get the same status as the apple. And yeah, because we have stories to tell, wonderful stories to tell. Now, the book that I'm presently writing now give the reason. The saints on wooden buses. We have a whole lot of stories that sprung from the past and came down through the ages. And going back to why I write. Write it down so the world would know that we too have thoughts, dreams, aspirations, and a cherished history and the culture. Write it down so the story would exist long after we rejoin the sod. Write it down so the children will not have to guess or struggle to put the pieces together. Write it down. Resurrect the deeds of our great men and women. Etch it in stone and let the story live. We have to let our story live. So what I do and what I write about, you'll find slang, expressions, the colloquialisms, and many of the words that we knew growing up as little children. Because this is what we knew. When we were small, we read of Frost and Shakespeare, Tennyson, and all the great writers. But who was writing about the splash of the wave on the seashore in the Caribbean? Who was telling us about that rhythm, the feelings? Who was expressing those thoughts? It's up to us. We read what the world was telling us, and it's time for us to tell the world about us. I remember the very first book that I wrote, one of the things I actually did, because I work for a big organization. I work for the American Red Cross, and there are many people of various nationalities there. So I said, look, this is a very good opportunity to let them read. Get somebody from Pakistan, show them a little excerpt, let them read it. Get somebody from India, get somebody from the various parts of the world, get the feedback. And depending on what they tell you, you know if your book could break through, because it's a human story. When you talk about a fisherman in Grenada, the same elements, the sun, the rain, and everything that he would experience, when you write a story about that, somebody in Australia reading it will be able to make a connection. But just to be short here, when I wrote the book, and I gave it to a woman from Pakistan, and I told her, read it. And then she read it and enjoyed it. And then, because in that book you had words like planas and mako and all the words that we grew up with, breadfruit and the various words. And she read it. And then I wrote the second book, which I said, you know what? I'm going formal now. I'm going to put this one more into the Queen's English. And I gave her to read. You know what she came back and told me? Boy, you give me this book to read. But where them nice words? Where are the nice words? And so, because the world know those words, but what of our slang, our expressions, and in the words itself is the history of the country. Sky Red will tell you all about Gary and the plantocracy and the fight and whatnot. Flambeau and Masanto would tell you you could go back in estate life in Grenada. And coming up, push it further on, the expressions that we got from France, because we are a whole mixture of all different languages and so on. So we have a bourgeois, bourgeoisie, and you could write a whole story on that in Grenada, who were working in the banks at one time, the big shots, you know. So the words themselves tell the story of the country. And so I'm on a mission here, and it's going on, and with your help, it will be realized. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, that definitely covered my first question about what inspired you to write. Many would say that writing is therapeutic. What is your view on the subject matter as far as just the act of writing, the art of writing?
The act of writing is therapeutic. It depends, too, on what you're writing. If you're writing a personal story, that could be therapeutic. If you're writing to clarify a process that's going on in your mind, that could be therapeutic. Writing can also be instructive. So my first book was kind of a fun thing and kind of a reflection of experiences I either had or know about. The second book is more instructive because I'm writing it geared to teenage girls, and the reason for that is that I see the kinds of struggles they have. Girls are looking to have a certain body image that they see portrayed in the media as being the ideal body type. They're reading books or magazines like Teen Vogue and 17, and they're striving for that body type, and if they can't have it, because genetically that is not their makeup to be skinny in a size 2, then they start having problems of self-image, poor self-esteem, and then they get into all kinds of bigger problems like bulimia. You find them eating and going to throw the food up because they don't want to get fat. I have a co-worker who's 8-year-old is already sitting at the dinner table picking and choosing. She doesn't want to eat this and she doesn't want to eat that because she doesn't want to gain weight, and the kid isn't even fat. So girls have the problem with body image. They all get into that whole thing, or we all as girls get into that whole thing of not being worthy and not being good enough based on how we look, which is a crazy thing. Also, a lot of girls in school, I've seen a lot of girls attach their self-worth to whether or not they have the attention of a boy they like. If the boy doesn't like them back, they think they have an issue. So it's that kind of problem, it's that kind of observation that led me to write this second book called Rockstar Teenage Girl, Self and Confidence Building, because in it I also attempt to give girls kind of guideline to go by, simple things they can do for themselves or with their parents, which would help to build their self-esteem. I like girls to make lists a lot, so they can make a list of all the things they love about themselves, all the things they're great at. So if they ever have a little confidence shaking or a little confidence rocking, they have a list they can refer to. After a while, they won't have to look at the list. They'll automatically know what's on the list and keep it close to them, keep it readily available, that kind of thing. So the book gives tips on how to build your own confidence and your own self-esteem as you go through, because as we know, the teenage years are very, very difficult years for both boys and girls, but girls, I think, seem to struggle more overtly with that kind of issue. So that's what inspires me to write. I'm just going to say one more thing. When I did the first book, which was a novel, it was fun to do, and it was fiction, and I thought, oh, this is easy. Fiction is easy because you can make it up as you go along. And I was saying someplace else where I was writing something on a site or something. If you get to a character that doesn't keep growing or that you have no need for in a fictional novel, you can have him kill himself. You can have somebody else kill him. You get rid of the character. It's over. So I thought fiction was going to be easy to write. But over time, I realized that except you're a Jackie Collins or Stephen King or a John Grisham or somebody, it's very difficult to write fiction. You have to have that kind of imagination. So I think I've moved on now to doing something more instructive because that's what I know, that's what I do hands-on every single day. I work as a learning consultant in one of New Jersey's systems, and I get to work with the girls because they come in with all of these issues. Girls come into my office with streams of tears because they're upset, because they're depressed about something simple like the way they look. You look the way you look. That's the way God made you. So everything in the book is about building your self-esteem, finding ways to nurture yourself and grow into a full person. And it also gives parents a guideline to start talking with their girls, because we know how we were raised. Our parents didn't bring up a lot of issues. Our parents did not talk to us about boys. That subject was just off the table. But it's a reality of life, and they start now earlier and earlier having an interest in the opposite sex. So the book is also good for parents because they can have kind of a platform to begin to talk to girls. And if the girls think mom is just discussing something she read in a book, she's much more likely to come out and say what she's thinking and say what she's struggling with, as opposed to mom having to bring up the topic and not knowing how to attack it and all that kind of thing. So it works for both the teenagers and the adults in their lives.
What genre does your literary work covers, and why? And this is based on, there was a little bit of internet back and forth with a particular reader of one of your pieces about how real it was, fiction, nonfiction, and there was kind of like a little banter going on. So I want you to touch on that as well.
It touches on the supernatural, and it's more based on folklore. You know, you hear all these tales when you're young, and as for experiencing anything like that, I did see something once, but being 8 years old, you can't know if it's imagination, what's real or what's not real. You know, even today, you can't figure these things out. My book, I remembered all those tales I heard, and they used to terrify me. As I grew up, although I was afraid of hearing them, I still wanted to hear them. And I just decided last year, it happened by accident. Someone on Facebook posted that they were feeling for a good horror story from back home, and I was bored. So I wrote one, and then the response was like, everybody was asking me if it was real, and I said no. And a gentleman told me that maybe I should become a writer. So the next day I wrote another one, and another one, and another one. Every other day I wrote one. So in 2 weeks I had a book, and I wrote everything on my iPhone. The whole book was written on my iPhone. And I had enough material, so I just compiled the book and published it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Which brings us to our next question. And yeah, those stories back home, I'm still paying for them today. Yes. Okay, because if I'm home by myself, all the lights are on and I have a knife below my pillow. Okay, because they scared the bejeebies out of me. So his writing is just excellent regarding that kind of stuff. All right, so going on to Nesta now. You're all the way from Switzerland. We're all the way here in the United States. So what role does technology, since he touched on Facebook and the iPhone, what role does technology play in your writing process?
it gives you a chance to promote your writing, to tell your story, to get it out there. I remember when I was growing up, I was writing everything down on little notices here and there. And now I still do that, but recently I was reminded, oh, why don't you write it on your iPhone? I mean, I didn't even think about it. I was comfortable writing there on my paper. It's safe. I mean, I can lose that on the iPhone, one touch of a button and it's gone. And it took me a very long time to get to that notice on my iPhone to do that. It's much more comfortable, I have to say. It's quicker. I don't have to go back and take my little settle and type it up. It's already done. I can just transfer it. It's absolutely amazing. It's quick. You can almost say it's professional because it almost happens for itself. But I find as well that sometimes I don't want to say I have a block because I actually write only if I am inspired. I don't try to write. So if I am inspired, I'll write it down. And if not, I just don't write. But sometimes if I'm asked to do something and I don't know where to start, then once I put my fingers on the keys, then they start to flow. The words start to flow. And that for me, it is some kind of magic. I mean, it's there. And it motivates you to get the fingers moving and get the work done. And I find that it's very interesting. It has come a long way. I still like my pen and my paper. And I don't have a Kindle. I still like to turn the pages and flip the pages of a book. But the computer has definitely its pluses. And I do appreciate it.
That's good. It has changed the world.
Yeah, drastically.
It's amazing. That's the second person that mentioned the iPhone because I also use the iPhone as well. It's amazing. It's on the go. You can be sitting on a bus or on the subway. And for those of you who are wanting to write or wanting to get into it, it's a really good portable means to incorporate into your writing style. So this next question is for Anthony. Regarding, and Nesta brought up it being easy, it feels good. But regarding the editing process, okay, if you're writing on paper, there's nobody editing you, you're editing yourself. But thinking about technology and the editing process, do you self-edit or do you go to an outside source? Because we know the computer programs now have that, you know, Microsoft Word. No, that's for Anthony, sorry. Built in. What do you do regarding that process of the work?
I think it's the best thing to do is to go to an outside source, but not only just an outside source, but somebody who's familiar with what you're writing about. Because if I'm writing a book about Grenada, and I give it to somebody who don't know too much about Grenada, and they put Grenada in that book, I'm dead. You understand? Because, what I'm saying actually is that the person have to be familiar. And as far as you as an editor, as you ask, looking at your own work, you will read the work, the word T-H-E-I-R over and over again, and it's supposed to be T-H-E-Y, and you may not see it. And not only that, you give it to an editor. And all those beautiful things